Hi guys, it's Ankita. Welcome to another video. Today I'm going to talk about all the books that I finished reading last month. So the Dutch House revolves around a house, as you can tell from the title, the Dutch House in Philadelphia, which the narrator's father buys as a surprise for his family in the year 1946. Now, this purchase was not only meant to be as a surprise for his family, but it was also a business decision on the father's part because he is in real estate, or he is just diving into real estate business. And this purchase sets into motion a series of events that define the lives of his two children, Danny and Maeve Conroy. And our narrator is one of those children, Danny Conroy. It's an interesting story of how the purchase of this house pulls his family out of poverty, but then eventually plunges them back into more poverty in the sense of not only wealth but also relationships. Because Danny's father, like I said earlier, is quite business minded, and he is emotionally detached from his children's lives. And the mother is physically absent after the father buys this property. So these siblings, Danny and Maeve, they form a very special bond which helps them to maneuver through several hardships throughout their lives. What I liked about this book is the narration. It is so raw, so honest. Danny just states what happened, and he has some really strong opinions of his. And you have to realize that his perspective is of a child who was basically abandoned by his mother, who was raised instead by his older sister, Maeve, and how this impacts his entire life and the decisions that he makes in his life. And Danny's observations were so spot on. And what I mean by that is his observations about relationships, and his relationship with his sister is something that I could relate to. So if you have siblings, you can very easily relate to this. I really enjoyed this book, and I ended up giving this a 4-star rating, but it was so close to 5-star. The only reason I didn't give it 5 stars, I'll say, is because I did not have that wow moment in this. But having said that, this is a literary fiction, and it is a really good, well-written work of fiction. I recommend this book to you if you like literary fiction. It's really good in the sense that it does a full circle, because Danny begins his story when he was a really young boy, right up to when he is, I think, in his late 50s. I might be wrong, but I think he is somewhere in his 50s. And this book was also the Pulitzer Prize finalist in the year 2020. Yeah, so if you want to read a book about dysfunctional family, strong sibling bond, or about the effects of abandonment on children, then I would highly recommend this book to you. Okay, the next book I read was The Kiss Thief by L.J. Shen. So this is a romance, and I've seen many booktubers recommend this book. The reason I picked this up was because it's always recommended under a mafia romance category. And if you don't know, I've been reading a lot of mafia romance these past couple of months. And so I wanted to read another one. Although when I was reading this, I found out that there is very little mafia connection or action in this book. It is essentially a romance-centric story. So our protagonist is Francesca Rossi. Her father is in the mafia. She has been in love with her childhood friend, and now that she is, I think, 18 or 19 years old, she now plans to marry the guy. And the guy is also in the mafia, but things don't turn out according to the plan, and she ends up with someone who is not in the mafia. And I would say this is kind of enemies to lovers trope, and then it is also an age gap romance, because I think the man in this one is 30 years old and the woman in this is 18, 19 years old, so there's like a significant age gap. I ended up giving this book 3-star rating. the writing in this one could have been better. But yeah, if you are younger, if you are a young adult, and you might like this book if you are into, age gap romance, or arranged marriage is another trope in this. Yeah, that's all I have to say about this book. The next book is Fire by Christine Kishore. This is the second book in the Graceling realm. In this book, we follow our protagonist, Fire, who is a human monster. Being a human monster, she is very attractive, and she has the skill of reading minds, which she uses quite reluctantly. But she ends up using her skills, her mind reading skills, to help out the king, who wants to defend his kingdom from outside threats. And while she is helping the kingdom, she discovers many family secrets. I have mixed thoughts about this book. Like, I liked certain aspects of it, but then like the world building was something that I liked. I love the concept of human monsters, but at the same time I felt like the plot could have been a bit stronger. I think my expectations for this book were really high because I loved the first book. The first book was just wow for me. But then the similarities between the protagonist in the first book and the second book were a lot. I thought like Christine Kishore was pushing a few agendas, especially feminist agendas. So in the first book, the protagonist is a staunch feminist, and in the second book, it's the same. And for some reason, that feminism added to the story in the first book, it did not add much to the story in the second book. I felt like this feminism was forced on to the character of Fire. Yeah, so I wish like Fire was a bit different. She's different, but there is still this like overarching feminist agenda in this book. And I don't mind reading that. Like I said, I loved the first one, but in this one, it just felt really forced. Let me know if you would like me to review Graceling. I'd be happy to do that. I really enjoyed that book. So I think I ended up giving this book a 3-star rating. The next book I read was Lakestone. I was provided an art for this book by Ritzy Discovery. I was not expecting to enjoy this book as much as I did. It's about a police officer who moves from Toronto, a big city, to a small town named Lakestone, and he expects his life in Lakestone to be different, less busy and quieter than it was in Toronto. But as you can tell from the title, a murder takes place in Lakestone, and Lachlan gets involved in the investigation. I love the character of Constable Lachlan Maggie. He has this really good sarcastic sense of humor, and his love interest is really witty, and she has this kind of like a spark and wait, that's not the right term, sass. She has sass, and they complement each other so well. I thought it's a more character-driven story. The investigation was kind of okay for me, but I love that it is set in a town where everyone knows everyone, and all the characters are so well-rounded, and I enjoyed this. I ended up giving it a 3-star because I did not enjoy the investigation as much. But I felt like the intention of this book was to introduce us to Lachlan Maggie and all the characters in Lakestone, and I really look forward to reading the next one in this series. Yeah, so I read in total 4 books in the first month of 2022. I'm also currently reading Dante's Inferno, which I'll finish in a couple of days. So I spent most of January reading that, and I'm also reading another book which is super long, but it's so good. It's also going to be a 5-star read, so I am really looking forward to reviewing that book on this channel. I would really like to know if you have read any of these books, or if you would like me to review any book in detail. I've already reviewed the Maggie Murder Mystery on my channel, but if you want me to review any other book in depth, then do let me know in the comments down below. And thank you so much for watching this video. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you next time. Until then, au revoir.